Here's to the crazy ones. The misfits. The rebels. The troublemakers. The round pegs in the square holes. The ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Hey friends, Marc Mandel here. Welcome to episode number 9 of Customer Experience Unsung Heroes. Thank you again for coming on this journey with me. I'm so glad that we're together for the next little while. Today's going to be a really special time together. We're going to get into the show in just a moment, but I wanted to talk for just a moment before we get started why I continue to show that Apple ad, the ad that just showed up at the beginning of this show. No, it's not because Apple's paying me a sponsor fee. They're not. I put that video out there, the Here's to the Crazy Ones video, because I find it to be the most inspiring piece of advertising I've ever seen. And the part about that commercial, that 1 minute little commercial that really hits right here to me when I listen to that show, that ad, is when they say the very end, the people who are crazy enough to think they could change the world are the ones who do. That just gets me every time I hear it because, while sure, I am nowhere near as interesting and influential as the people who are profiled in that ad, I would love to inspirationally and aspirationally feel like I could be like them. I want to be a world changer. And I think a lot of us who get into this customer experience work believe deeply that the work we do will cause that little dent to happen, that little improvement, that little nudge that makes things just a smidge better. And that's why we do what it is that we do. That's the reason I show that ad. And I just love it. I think it's terrific. Housekeeping. While we're together here for this show for the next give or take 30 or 35 minutes, I want to encourage you, if you're here listening in live or even on a playback, you might be here on LinkedIn, you might be here on the YouTube platform, some other platforms. There's always the ability to put comments, and please do comment. Please engage with the platform, put your questions in, put your thoughts in, fire them away to me or to others here. We want to be able to respond and interact with you during this show. I think it's important that we do that. Also, I'm going to ask a favor. If at the end of this episode you like it as much as I hope that you will, hit the little like button on the bottom or share it with a friend. It's important that we let other people know about this, and I hope that you can do that as well. Boy, I'd really be appreciative of that. Let's talk what's coming up on this show and why we're here. Enough housekeeping. As we get into this episode, the reason that we're here is to do a couple of things. The first thing I want to do is talk about a book, and I've held this book up in previous episodes of other shows that I've done. It's called CX Pro Beyond the Basics. This is edited and written primarily by a gentleman who I think of as a good friend, Carl Charisse. It's a terrific book. If you found this on LinkedIn, this book is about $24, $25. I'll give you one as my gift. All you have to do is ask me for a copy, and I'll drop one in the mail to you. If I have to go buy it for you, I'll go buy it for you. This is a really terrific book, and I think well worth your time as a CX practitioner or supplier to take a look at it. So let me know if you want a copy or two. I'd be more than happy to send it your way. Just say, hey, Mark, send me a copy of the book. I'm also doing this show while I'm doing it live with you here. Today is March 17th, according to my computer screen over there, which means tomorrow is the very, very beginning of the Qualtrics X4 conference. And it's that big format conference going on in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'll be flying out there this evening to attend for the rest of the week. And if you're going to Qualtrics X4 as well, and you happen to see this and want to meet up, I'd love to meet up with you. I hope we get the opportunity to do just that. Please look me up and let's make a point of hooking up while we're out in Salt Lake. If you're not going to Salt Lake City, there's a possibility the following week, the week of the 24th, that you may be going out to Las Vegas for the Medallia conference. I'll be out there also. So same sort of deal, guys, on both sides. If you're coming to Salt Lake this week, look me up. Let's see if we can meet up and get a chance to grab a coffee or a bite to eat or just to walk around the show floor. Next week at the Medallia thing, same thing. It'll be fun to be able to spend that time with you. And in terms of what's coming up next, I would like the opportunity to connect you with a good friend of mine. My friend's name is Richard Vernon, and I've known Richard for probably close to 10 years now. I used to be with a company years ago that went by the name Allegiance. They were a voice of the customer platform company, also located out in Utah. And Richard was local. He was working at the time for a company you may know called Franklin Covey. And we got an opportunity to meet up a bunch of times, and we realized just how much we saw the world very similar, he and I. And so I had an opportunity to tell Richard about this particular show that I do and say, hey, Richard, I'd love to have you come on as my guest. I have a chance to talk with you about you and your career and the things that just kind of just make you you, because I think you're pretty awesome. And Richard was kind enough to say that he would like to grace us and to do that. And so we're going to do that in just a second. But to introduce Richard from where I sit before I bring him on to the show, Richard's one of these unique professionals. Richard has been not just in the CX and related disciplines for a long time, but he's kind of seen it from all different sides and through all different lenses. Richard has been a vendor where he's been a consulting guy, he's been a technology guy, he's been a software guy. He then went to the client side world and took on some initiatives within client side brand organizations to help them think about their customers differently, and then went back more recently to the vendor side to a large global consulting firm. And I'd like to ask Richard to join us here in just a second to tell us his story a little bit and just have a good chat, he and I, and hope that's okay with you. So with that said, Richard, thanks for coming to hang out here with us. Good to see you, man.
Hey, Mark, always a pleasure to be with you.
Good to hang out with you. Richard, as we get just started, I would just love to sit back for a moment and ask you, because, it dawns on me, you and I have known each other for maybe a decade now,
Yeah.
But a lot of folks who might be listening into this show in one place or another might not know you. Can you take just a moment just to kind of answer the question of who do we need to know? Who's Richard? What do we need to know about you and kind of where your lane is in this world of customer experience works? It means a lot of different things.
Yeah, thanks, Mark, first of all, for having me. And if you ask my family, whenever we go out to eat or wherever we go, we're rating the service on a scale of 0 to 10. And somehow In-N-Out Burgers are 11 or 12 every time. They're off the charts. So I just love great service. I love the kindness that can be shown. I love the analytics side of it. I loved it so much that I shifted a little bit of my career. I started out in the true customer loyalty program, the points and the premiums and coupons and things like that. And I just thought there's got to be more to this. And so there's got to be like a research. There's got to be some science. I want some sentiment versus just, we'll give you $5 off this or whatever. So I found an opportunity to work at Franklin Covey in their customer loyalty practice. And I guess we could have called it a customer experience practice. But the idea there was to help companies measure and improve the customer experience and drive faster growth. That was our goal. And I had a great run there for almost 8 years, helping a variety of companies from different industries using, we were a small shop, but we helped people, measure and improve and deploy and then improve at QBRs with the executive team and really get in and be their right-hand man for anything on CX and EX related. So, and then I just thought, wow, if I can go learn from these experts and from all these different companies and from within Franklin Covey, what if I went and just focused on one brand and had an opportunity to go jump over and work for a large telecom company, Comcast, that had some challenges, but it was interesting how I've never seen a company double down more on CX than Comcast. Everybody in the company had to call 2 customers a month. Imagine that, a Fortune 30 company, and the CEO was calling 2 customers a month. I mean, it was crazy what they were able to do, but they moved the needle quite a bit from -16 to +4 NPS. I mean, a huge swing for a behemoth like that.
Yep.
And then went on more on the different client side. We're Terminex, working with more of the technicians and the professionals. But really, those experiences kind of helped me think differently instead of just, a one-trick pony. I can just do one thing. We've been with this company. We're the stodgy old cable company. We do the same thing we've always done. We don't think differently. That allowed me, working with different clients, different industries, to go into one brand and say, let's look at this a little different. I don't know. You've probably had that experience, Marc, when you've had to have, you're in a role where you're like, oh, we do the same thing over and over again. It's like, oh, wait a minute. No, we're bringing this guy in to help us think differently.
Yeah, it's interesting. You touched on something a second ago that you brought up just seemingly just random, but I want to dig in a minute to this because I want to get your thoughts. You talk about In-N-Out Burger. I'm an East Coast guy.
Yeah.
I look forward to West Coast and from like Midwest to West visits to an opportunity to go to an In-N-Out Burger to get a meal.
Yeah.
And it's a good burger.
Yeah.
But I don't see it. People love In-N-Out Burger. People are like gaga about this thing. And I'm wondering something. What I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you really think it's the product, or do you think it's the word of mouth, the viral, reputational part of it? Or people go, In-N-Out Burger, it's awesome. So now I hear that and think, it must be awesome. I got to go check it out the next time, and I got to go tell the next guy, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what's the attraction, do you think, to something?
It's not a fad. I mean, their food is amazing. I've got 3 teenage boys. I mean, that's a cheap, good meal. They're there all the time. And then you add the amazing service on top. I mean, it's a home run. Just think about this, Marc. After a University of Utah football game at 1 a.m, we're like, oh man, we're starving. Where should I take my 3 teenage kids? Well, In-N-Out Burger's open till 1:30. And I thought, I'm going to see how good their service is at 1:30 in the morning.
That's a test.
You would not believe it, Marc. It was off the charts. The lady, you thought it was like 9 a.m. She's ready to go. And, she was just cheery and happy. And, do you need a placement with that? Do you need sauce? Do you want spread? I mean, it was like, I could not believe it. My boys were like, okay, I thought 11 was a high score, but we got to go higher than that. So
she was on her game in the middle of the night.
Yeah. And Tom Hanks, it's his last meal. There's a little episode where that's one of his last meals that he would want. They do a little podcast, and that's one of his last meals. So, hey, Tom Hanks likes it.
You were talking before about switching up things and coming into new situations professionally. I was telling a story about a guy that I know who has made the rounds to 4 or 5 companies, client-side companies, in the last probably 15 years. And most notably, every time he changed his company, he changed the industry that he was looking to work in.
Wow.
And one of the reasons he did that was he was able to come in with a fresh perspective, right? Some industries, I don't want to beat up health insurance any more than it should get beat up, but let's just talk about health insurance for a minute, right? Or health care. Health care is, in my opinion, a very inbred industry where people are career healthcare people.
Yeah.
And they learn how to do a job a certain way at a certain company, then they change companies, but they don't change industry. And all they do is they take that old approach from the same, like a twin company, and they bring their new company and they implement that same approach there.
Yeah.
And it may or may not work any better there than it did the last time. But the one guy I'm talking about, if he came from an airline company to a health insurance company, from a health insurance company to a retail company, from a retail company to a pharmaceuticals company, he has what I keep calling a beginner's mind, right? So he gets to walk in and say, why do we do it that way? Not be willing to accept the answer of, gee, I don't know, I guess we always have. Right? Which seems to be the cheap way out.
That is the default. Yeah. I don't know. That's why we've always done it.
Right. So he could come in and go, you know what? What if we did it different? What if we just switched it up? What if we learned something? What if we're an insurance company today that we could learn from an airline case that it was on, or a retailer, or a technology company, or whatever it might be, and not feel like we just need to be the same tab going into the same slot over and over and over again. Just a different way to look at things. And that made my friend so compelling because he had that beginner's mind intentionally. He didn't have any sense of always did it that way. That did not matter to him at all. And so it's good to see how that works in your favor as well.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of that in healthcare. With you go to hospitals, they've learned a lot from the hospitality industry of like,
Sure.
these people are guests at your hotel, not like here just for an operation. It's like, okay, let's bring in the Diet Coke, let's bring in the ice chips, let's bring, how can we make this room more comfortable?
Yep.
So
that's so important. I mean, especially in healthcare. I mean, like
yeah,
provider healthcare hospitals. I did work with a company years ago. Oh gosh, I'm not going to even tell you how many years ago. I joined a company called Strativity Group. They're a consulting firm in New Jersey at the time. They've since sold their business and many of the principals have moved on. But back in those days, one of our clients was one of the early for-profit cancer treatment center companies that are out there. And unlike a conventional hospital that may or may not have a for-profit motive, these guys were definitely a for-profit company. And they were there when patients made the choice of pursuing certain treatment protocols. And they went and my old boss at that old company helped them think differently about what's it like to come to a hospital. You might have just been recently diagnosed with cancer. You still have a lot of questions in your mind about what does that mean? Am I going to live? What are the treatments like? Is it going to hurt? What's going to happen to my family? And they figured out a way to make that work.
Wow.
Right? They figured out a way to make you comfortable. They figured out a way to be clear in their communication. They figured out a way to put your fears, to acknowledge your fears, but then put them to rest and not just dismiss them. And they figured out ways to communicate not just with the patient, but the patient's family. Right? So that, because they have questions and they're scared.
Yeah.
Right. And how do you sit down with, a spouse or a child or a parent and say, here's what's going on. Right. And they learned how to do that in a really special way. So more credit to them. But they, in my mind, were the outlier in an industry that doesn't do that real well.
I love that. I'm still waiting for the day that they actually tell you how much you're going to pay before you have the service. What business you go in? I'll take one of those, and you don't know how much it costs.
I did so much work for health insurance companies over the years.
Yeah.
And they all have this concept that they send out something called an EOB, an explanation of benefits.
Yeah.
Right, which looks like an invoice. It looks like a bill, but it says this is not a bill across the top. But you got to pay it. And if you don't pay it, they get mad at you.
Yes.
Right. But I can't see something more confusing than this is not a bill that you have to pay.
Yeah. It drives me crazy,
And again, why do they do that? Because they always have.
Exactly. Wait for someone to rock that apple cart.
It's that same thinking. Let's go disrupt it. And people are so afraid because they think it's not that broken. I think that they're in for a rude awakening, in my opinion.
Totally. We need an Uber in the healthcare market.
You've done so many interesting things over the years. So it's inspired. But I'm wondering something. If you we all dream of having a time machine for different reasons, right? When I was a kid, I was like, if I could build a time machine, I could go back in time and I could buy all the old baseball cards and make all this money on them now.
Yeah.
Right? Or something crazy like that. But I want to ask you a time machine question. And that is, if you can go back in time to revisit yourself or some version of you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever it was that you were just kind of getting your sea legs under you, doing the kind of work you do now, and you could whisper into your younger self's ear, hey, make sure you know such and such, something you now know for sure that you weren't so sure about, let's say 10 years ago. What's the thing that you whisper into your younger self's ear to say, you should remember, if you don't remember anything else, remember this advice. What's the advice that you give yourself?
The golden rule in customer experience, customer service is make it easy for me to do business with you.
Yep.
I don't know how many times I have to jump through so many hoops, or we as consumers have to jump through so many hoops just to get something simple. And AI is making that an improvement. I mean, this agent assist, augmenting the agent to give them the tools they need to respond or personalize the experience even more is huge. But I wish someone would have said, anybody's job is to make it easy for the customer to do business with us. And I think of Amex. I lost my Amex card a while ago, and that's a kind of panic moment.
Yep.
Amex, American Express knows that's a key touch point that can help the customer go up or down our service. And they've got that dialed in where you call in and the first thing they say is, Mr. Vernon, no worries, we've got your back. And I was like, oh, I just felt this sense of relief, and they're just trying to make it easy for me. And what do? Oh, Mr. Vernon, we will erase all those erroneous charges, and we're gonna FedEx you a card in the morning.
Yep.
I was blown away. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I don't have to sign from some form, fill out 10 different papers and prove to you all this stuff. They have been, a brand I trust wholeheartedly, and they understand the customer, and they're making it easy for me to use their product.
Can we go unpack something you talked about a minute ago? I have some thoughts about something I want to run by you.
Yeah.
You talked about make it easy. And I absolutely agree with make it easy.
Yeah.
But my question for you is, are all things created equal in the impact of effort or easy? And let me tell you what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when, was it you might know better than me, the corporate executive board guys, the guys that invented this concept of customer effort score back in the day. They talked about effort, if I remember correctly, being measured as an absolute number of like 1 to 5, 1 being hard, 5 being easy, or maybe it was flip side, maybe it was one other way around, but it was an absolute score. Like, this was easy, I'll give it a 5. This was hard, I'd give it a 1.
Yeah.
And what I want to drill into with you, what if I'm the customer and something is easy, but I kind of expected it to be easy? Is there a reward? Did I give you bonus points for taking something that I fully expected to be 2 seconds and easy if you make it easy? Or let me flip that around. If something that I fully know is going to be complicated and hard, and it turned out hard, do I punish you for that? Or is that just kind of expectation?
I think it's expectation. I mean, there's the expectation, the bar's getting higher and higher,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with Amazon and Instacart and just the level. I mean, a couple of years ago, even I was at Nordstrom and I saw this long line, and I was like, oh my gosh. And this wonderful little gal comes up and says, oh, looks like you're a little lost. I was like, well, yeah, I just don't have time. I got to run my kids' rugby game. I'm busy. She's like, oh, well, I can just check you out right here. She pulls out her device and checks me out, and on my way. I was like, oh my gosh, they've just raised the bar. I should never have to wait in the line again. Imagine that.
Yeah, I've seen companies like Apple do that in their retail program.
Yeah.
Right, where there's no longer like a place to find a cashier. They just kind of float around. You don't have to go to them. They'll come to you.
Yeah.
A little handheld thing. They scan you out and you're done in 2 seconds and you go away. I think that's, or better yet, what's your take? I go to, like you probably, I travel a lot for work, and I'm at those airports, and these airports at least used to have, and I think many of them still have, this Amazon store where you don't actually have to talk to anybody. You just go pick up items off the shelf
and walk out.
And the store is called Just Walk Out.
Oh, that's
right?
awesome. That's great.
And so the way it works there is you take a credit card, and it's a credit card that's attached to your Amazon account. They assume you have an Amazon account at home, and it's attached to a certain card. So you take that card and you scan it when you get to the store.
Yeah.
And then you could start to browse the shelves and put merchandise in a little basket.
Love it.
When you're done, you just go. And it knows exactly what's in the basket, and it charges your card. And you're on your way. You don't have to wait for anybody. There's no lines, nobody to talk to, nobody to debate. It's just take the stuff and go.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're stealing. And you feel like I must be shoplifting because I didn't pay anybody. But you do. They know, and you've paid them. But it's cool.
That reminds me of when I was at Franklin Covey, we developed this huddle or frontline customer service training and trained the manager. It's actually a book called Leading Customer Loyalty. But one of the questions we asked people there is, what could you do? What, if any, or what could you do to delight the customer if there were no rules? Obviously you just can't go do whatever, but like, let's start there. And I guarantee that's probably what some of these great inventions came about, and ask the front line. They talk to more customers than anybody.
Yeah.
And I remember at Comcast, I was at a call center in Richmond, Virginia, and I was there facilitating our MPS playbook training in the morning. And that supervisor, I said, okay, what are you hearing from the comments? What are you hearing from the customers? Oh, well, the pain point this week is we're authenticating the customer in a non-warm and friendly way. It's like, hi, Mr. Mandel, what's your account number? Probably not even hi, Mr. Mandel. What's your account number? Oh, great. I'm just a number. Instead, I said, well, Great. I bet you have some great ideas, but ask your team in your next huddle and bite your lip and do not give them any answers. Get the ideas from them, pull it from them. And this cute little gal that I was just observing, I wasn't monitoring or facilitating or anything. She responded. She never responds. She says, well, I just say, with whom do I have the pleasure to speak with today? Everybody gets out their pen and paper. They start writing that down. Okay, let's try that this week. Now, did they see a huge spike? Was it a silver bullet? No, but it was just more authentic and more real. And there was this kind of fail fast. Well, let's try it this week. If it doesn't work, let's try something new. Let's keep asking the front line. They're hearing it more than anybody. Now, you can use analytics and things like that too. Obviously, do both. But like, just ask the people to talk to the customers.
Imagine that. What a concept, right?
Yeah, rocket science.
It's interesting. I remember years ago I was involved. Since it's a lot of years ago, I could probably talk about it now openly. There was a project at Best Buy, the electronic retailer, where we created something called the Blue Shirt Nation with them. If you've ever been to a Best Buy store, their color scheme was like blue and yellow or blue and gold.
Yeah.
And all the employees wore those blue polo shirts with the little Best Buy logo. And there was literally a nation full of these people. And we thought these people hold a wealth of institutional knowledge about customers, about the business in their minds. And they needed an outlet to go tell a story about to one another, to help develop one another. And so we created this, think of it like a portal, like a web portal, that they can go to internally, privately, and share experiences with one another. So it became kind of the voice of the customer by way of the employee. Amazing.
That's instant feedback. And you don't need to, it's just, it's real time in the moment.
Picture 40,000 employees contributing to this portal.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's how the innovation happens. And a lot of these big companies, really any company, as a matter of fact, are able to delight customers in an efficient way, as well as just to get real feedback. I mean, you could just read comments, but like, just say, hey, what's getting in the way of us delighting customers?
That's right.
We have this policy. I'll tell you an experience. It just happened yesterday. My wife is head of concierge at Lifetime Fitness. It's kind of like the country club of fitness. And she had a customer come in that was upset with a policy that they had they can't change, which is for safety and for fairness with other members. But my wife just said, well, tell me what happened.
Yeah. Imagine that.
And then she said, you know what? Sounds like you need a smoothie. Let's walk over to the cafe. $6. The lady broke down in tears, and she's going to be a member for life. And it just took that simple empathy and just taking some time to think. And I just always reminded of Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits. His quote is, the greatest human need is to feel understood. I don't know. Do you like to be feeling understood, Mark?
I could tell you that that's such a big deal to me.
Yeah.
And feeling when I'm not understood, like they're shutting me out, it's such a turn off.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's huge turn on to feel connected and understood.
Yeah.
Let's change gears for a minute. Do you follow the folks in one of these analyst companies like Forrester or Gartner? You know who they are? They track the kind of different industries, and CX is one of the industries that they tend to track. And there's a lot of doom and gloom chatter out there these days. People are saying 50% of the customer experience projects are going to fail, or people are going to be unemployed, or whatever it might be. A lot of negativity, a lot of negative Nellies out there right now. I don't believe them.
Yeah.
I think there's some interesting challenges out there right now, for sure. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you your take. What do you see the future of kind of the CX practitioner? If you're a vice president of customer experience for a company, what do you see that role being today? If you could spitball this, what do you see what's the job today? Where do you see it going? Is it more technology coming? Is it more culture and HR? Is it harder stuff? Is it softer stuff? Where's it going, do you think? Where do you take it?
I mean, I think it's in 3 buckets, like mindset, skill set, tool set. It's like the mindset is like, okay, the vision, like at Comcast, everybody thought that they were in any cable probably company, thought that we're the stodgy old cable company. We just have all this regulation, we have all this stuff, versus let's change our way of thinking. And now we're the connectivity company. I'm able to help connect people overseas, military spouses, kids get homework, us to earn a living from home using the internet or using their connectivity, or be entertained after a stressful day. It's so that mindset is, you got to start there. And if people can start changing that mindset, that's a good spot. Now, mindset, skill set. So the skill set, people have got to learn how to use the upcoming AI. I know I've been doing some stuff with Salesforce's Agentforce. It's mind blowing what it can do and how it can assist and augment the agents and with case summarization and knowledge articles, all that. It's pretty amazing what that can do in a personalized experience, because people want answers quick and they want it to feel human as possible. So, and then the tool set, we need technology. Technology is not going anywhere. I mean, I'm not saying anything people don't know, but you've got to have these technical skills, and you've got to have the AI skills. You've got to have empathy. Is never going to go away. And I know AI can probably try to mimic it, but we need to learn how to sure, we're going to try to digitize everything, but we need to still have it humanized.
It's funny you say it that way. I was challenged recently in a conversation with a guy that I know, and this is going to become very clear very quickly as to how absurd it got, where he said, can you teach AI to authentically fake empathy? Well, first of all, how do you authentically fake anything?
Exactly.
Right. And then empathy, that's a impossibility to do. These software tools don't understand that concept.
Yeah, you walk a mile in my shoes, then maybe we can see. So,
but how do you authentically fake something?
Yeah, that's a good one, Mark.
I was like, I'm not sure there's enough money in the world going around to figure that one out right now.
Yeah, but maybe that'll happen one day, that computers.
From my standpoint, I mentioned this book before that copy is away from, and I had the opportunity to write a chapter in it specifically about AI, because I think there's no bigger topic, no kind of dinner time, like business dinner topic, than what's happening with AI. What's this Chat GPT thing? What's the thing in China? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? And I've been continuing to frame this up, not all systems go, but not stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Proceed with caution. I think the more that we can proceed with caution, the more we could benefit from amazing things that AI can do. But the more we go hog wild and say, why do we need call center reps? We got AI. Let's just wipe out all the people. I think that's a mistake waiting to happen instantaneously.
Yeah, that's why I think that augmenting and helping the agent. I mean, if I don't have to read through a call summary and I've got the 2 bullets from what happened on the last call, I don't have to say, well, tell me what happened. We're saving time, we're saving money. It's a better experience for the customer. I mean, simple things like that, I think are just, and auto responses and voice to text to summarize the call. And anyways, plethora of use cases that I think are fascinating. But to your point, to let it run everything, that could be.
What I hear you saying, and tell me if I'm missing the key point here. It's good today if we unleash it as a way to help our own employees do their jobs better.
Bingo.
What we don't want to do is think about replacing our own people with this tool today, because it's just not going to measure up. Is that fair to say?
I think so. I mean, it's going to keep evolving, and maybe that curve improves over time, but maybe my brain isn't as futuristic as some.
I can imagine a few really fun stories that were brought about by AI, and I've told one. I'll tell you quickly, because I think watch an old story, it could hold up to this day. I was working in a very early, we'll call it a chatbot company. This is 1 billion years ago. And we were pitching McDonald's Corporation at the time in Illinois. And they wanted to put this little animated Ronald McDonald character on the website that you can type to in whatever natural language and ask a question, and it will get some kind of informed answer.
The Clippy of McDonald's?
Exactly. It was Clippy version 4. And the way the tech worked then, it wasn't really AI. It had to kind of be hardwired up, right? Yeah. So if it saw a keyword of this and this, answer them this way. If it's this and that, answer them that way.
Yep.
And like, how many calories are in a chicken McNugget? So this is calories and McNugget. It goes 1,247 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we did a demo for McDonald's. They loved it. So they said, come out to our offices and show everybody. We want to show off this tool. And so we were all, we're going to get the McDonald's business.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. We flew to Illinois. We went to the meeting. We presented the software. They loved it. And then we got a little too far out ahead of our own skis. They must have had 20, 25 people in the room. And we said, who wants to ask Ronald McDonald their own question right now? And it was like an IT guy in the back of the room puts his hand up and he goes, I want to ask Ronald a question. We said, sure. What do you want? He says, ask Ronald what's inside a chicken McNugget. And you know, Richard, that wasn't something we had wired it up for. And so
nobody knows the answer to that.
It's like the secret formula. Right?
Yes.
You know, but it's supposed to fail all the tests. If it's this or this or this or this or this, if none of those are it, it's supposed to come back and go, gee, I don't know. But for some reason it didn't. And for some reason, the answer that came back on the screen said Ray Kroc was the answer, who's their esteemed founder. And there was like a silence that you could never imagine in that room. And then they kicked us out of the room. They kicked us out of the building. They could have kicked us out of the state of Illinois.
Yeah. While they're at it.
We lost the deal. We were embarrassed as heck, right? I mean, because we got too ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
And while sure, technology's a bazillion times better now than it was back then.
Yeah.
The possibility still exists of an answer coming back that you don't plan for.
Yeah. And you're at the mercy of whatever that says. And that's, once it's out there, it's out there.
It's too darn late.
Yeah.
Right. And you can't pull it back. And so I like what you're saying. If you're augmenting a person with tech, then you still go through the lens of the person to say, does that look right? Right? Am I okay with that being the answer?
Yeah.
And if the answer is, yep, cool, good. And if it's not, fix it.
Unless it's like you're billing, like what's my bill? You know, I don't want to call, but if it's numerical or something like that, that should be just a quick, you don't need an agent. But
that's right. So I just have one last question. I'd love to ask all the good people on this show this question. And that's, you know, there's so many amazing people out there doing amazing work. I don't mean CX people, but creating amazing experiences for people. Yeah. Is there somebody, some company, some brand, some place, some guy, some woman, whatever, that comes to your mind professionally, personally, that inspires you? What inspires you to say, boy, they got it right?
Yeah, I mean, I shared In and Out and Lifetime, and those two are off the charts. But to me, I mean, I feel like I'm a broken record with some of these top companies. But Costco, I don't know how many times I've returned something and they just don't ask, but they do whatever they can to take care of it. My friend works there, and he's just tells me stories that you wouldn't believe that are just like off the charts. And it's like, where does that start? Well, it starts at the top. It's the culture, and the culture to me are the spoken and unspoken words and actions of the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see leaders do amazing things and stick to their guns, you know, I think it's pretty amazing. So
I agree.
I don't know if you've had experiences with similar brands like that, but that's.
I have a story from this past weekend. You know, I'm a car guy, and you know, even as a car guy, the one part about being a car guy that everybody doesn't like is buying a car.
Amen.
Right? Going to the dealership and you have to spend a day, you know, going from person to person. Well, they're going to sell you the insurance thing. They're going to sell you the this. They're going to sell you the that. It's just a nightmare, and it's hard, and it's complicated. It's confusing. This weekend, I decided I was going to buy a new car, and I was going to buy an electric car from Tesla.
Okay.
They couldn't have made it easier. Because I could go there. They don't have dealerships; they have showrooms. So you can't buy. You don't go there to buy. You go there to look.
Okay.
And then you buy it on their website. You go to Tesla.com, and you pick the car. If they have one in inventory, you pick the one you like, If they don't have one in inventory, they'll build it for you. But the
Wow.
whole process, Richard, from beginning to end was about 15 minutes.
You've got to be one of a billion that have had that good experience. I'm not with Tesla, but like buying a car. I could tell you nightmare stories that would blow your mind. You know, I was wrestling over 15 cents because they told me it was one price. And it was, I mean, you know, I was like, really? I was like, well, no, it's the principle here. You can't just, so having a 15-minute, wow, that's
15 minutes end to end.
That's great, Mark. And you get an amazing product too. So
here's hoping. I have not gotten it yet. It's still coming in a couple of weeks, but I'm excited about it. But, you know, I took my wife. My wife was like, I don't want to spend a day at the dealership. I don't want to spend a day. I don't want to deal with that. And I said, just come with me. And sure enough, it was in and out, and it was super quick, they could not have made it faster. They could not have made it easier. And this maybe goes back to the thing I was talking about at the beginning, where I said, sometimes when you're talking about customer effort and making things easy, there's a big reward when it's a positive mismatch, right? When I'm expecting it to be hard. I'm expecting the trip to the car place to kill my Saturday.
Yeah.
Right. And instead they made it fast and easy and pleasant and pleasurable and almost fun.
That's awesome. That reminds me of just a quick, if I have time for one more story, but it was at Comcast. Nobody likes the cable guy to come because they're going to come from noon to 4, whatever. But I was on a ride along or a truck roll with this technician, and I just challenged him before we went in and said, you know, Arturo, what's something you could do you've never done before to delight the customer? He looked at me like, I got rocks in my head. You know, what are you thinking? Like, I was like, I didn't want to give him an answer, but finally I said, okay, say the customer's name 3 times. He looked at me like, okay, knocks on the door. Hi, Mrs. Smith. This is Arturo and Richard. We just heard your cable's down. He's like, you know, went through all the standard protocol, but he kept saying, Mrs. Smith, you know, and found out it was actually her DVD player, not even her cable, but he was teaching her along the way. But she finally stopped him dead in the tracks and said, quit calling me Mrs. Smith. My name's Ann. And he looks at me and he's like, you knew that was going to happen. I was like, well, kind of, but you know, and she says, I don't care what people say about your brand. I'm going to tell people that you're the best. And by the way, you're not leaving without a bottle of champagne. I was like, what? And I said, well, we can't do that. She's like, no, well, I'll leave it on the curb. You pick it up after work if you can't pick it up, you know. And he just looked at me like, you knew that was going to happen. I said, well, no, it's just, how do we humanize these experiences? Dale Carnegie says the greatest word in the human language is your own name. And so just try using the person's name. And what ended up being, what could have been, like you mentioned, a horrible experience. You're like, oh, I have to go buy a car. I have to deal with the cable company. And she came out delighted, like this was the coolest thing ever.
Yep, I can see that.
So,
you know, I could sit here. This is just fun talking with you. I could sit here and talk with you. I don't want to take more of your time today. I know you're a busy guy, so I'm going to simply wind up by just asking, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you to say, hey, Richard, let's talk some more? Where do they reach out to you through? Is it LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is perfect. Yeah, Richard Vernon. You can find me on there and message me, DM me. I'd love to connect and talk CX shop, whatever. I love having these kinds of conversations. And any friend of yours, Mark's, is a friend of mine. So
Richard, it's such a treat to hang out with you today. Thank you for
being
here with me. Richard, stay well, my friend. I'm gonna wrap up the show in just a moment, but thank you for being here. And again, let's talk soon. And my friends, if you want to talk to Richard, I'm sure you'll find him on LinkedIn, and he's there to talk anytime that you want.
Please do.
Thanks Mark. So friends, that was Richard Vernon. Thank you for hanging out with Richard and me. It's good to be here with you guys. As we're going to wrap up the show, I want to repeat a couple of things that I want you to take away, housekeeping things. If you want a copy of Carl's new CX Pro book, My Treat, I'll buy a copy for you from Amazon. Just let me know if you want one. I'm more than happy to send one your way. If you're coming to the Qualtrics conference, the X4 conference this week in Salt Lake, come find me, come look me up. I'll be there for the rest of the week, and I hope we get a chance to see one another. We'll go take a walk and talk. And if you're not coming, but maybe coming to the Medallia conference the week after, come hang out with me there in Las Vegas. That'll be fun to see you there. My friends, we're going to be doing a live show like this later this week from the Qualtrics show. If you want to come hang out with us on the live show, come hang out with us and do that there. And I will see you real soon. Thanks for hanging out with us. And remember, please, if you like these shows, they're hard work to do, but I enjoy them. But do me a favor, tell a friend, hit the like button, put some comments and engagement there. It helps us both. And really, I'm grateful for that. Thank you, my friends. Stay well, and we'll see you again real soon now. Bye-bye now.